Welcome to another edition of Broadband Action. I'm Curtis Steen with CBAN, and we are excited about our latest episode, kind of our finale of 2025. It's kind of an annual tradition now for this finale, when we invite the sage soothsayer of the East to join us. Yes, Doug Dawson, the Magnificent.
You know, I think this is possibly the best use of artificial intelligence I've come across so far, and I've been studying it for a while. So this is amazing. Thanks, Curtis. You've outdone yourself.
This image will live rent-free in my head the rest of my life. But yeah,
it's certainly got to go. Certainly got to go to my head. I can tell you
that. Well, if we could actually get you a physical hat like that, Doug, I would gladly ship it to your home in North Carolina and have you wear it in live when we do these. But until then, we'll have to settle for AI. Thanks for coming on again. Doug Dawson, in case you don't know, is CCG Consulting, and every year he does a predictions blog, and Doug blogs every day. In fact, I woke up this morning and got to my computer, and your blog was already posted for today. So that's just how dang dedicated you are. But every year, Doug does a predictions episode, so to speak, of his blog, and he is always kind enough to share it with us and our listeners and viewers. And so, Doug, thanks again for doing that this year. Oh, I should introduce our co-host, John Willow with CBAN. Sorry, John.
I'm just going to throw one more plug in for Doug, plug for Doug, even though most people who would see this probably don't need it. His blog's called Pots and Pans.
Yes.
And it is absolutely incredible. So.
Yeah. And it's a must read for anybody that is involved in broadband. So keep it up there, young man. We need your guidance and wisdom as much as possible. But today, most of all, we need your crystal ball. So let's get started. I've queued up all of your predictions for 2026, and we're just going to go through them one by one. John and I will alternate leading the discussion. I'll start with the first one. And here it is. Federal regulators will continue to ignore Congress. Doug, tell us the basis of this wise prognostication.
Well, first off, they're already doing it. So in this last year, both the NTIA and FCC and Telecom and many, many other regulators around the federal government are ignoring Congress. An example that I pointed out on my blog was lower calling rates for prisoners. So Congress a year and a half ago passed something called the Martha Wright Act that lowered calling rates. And whenever they do a specific order for someone like the FCC is obligated to put it in place. And the FCC in 2024 did put that in place. They lowered the rates. It was near the end of last year. They did exactly what Congress told them to do. This year, Congress came back and just put the rates back up again, and they actually raised them higher than they were before. And so they simply ignored Congress. And this is one of many examples. And so it's going to be a very interesting year because a lot of this stuff, that one there in particular has gone back to court. The folks who are behind the Martha Wright Act, I've actually been a technical witness for them for 20 years. That's how long it took them to get that order.
Oh, wow.
So they're not going to just accept this. They're going to take it to court. And there is already examples of regulators being stopped because there was also one of the agencies, which I can't remember their complicated name, but it's the ones who gives out grants to libraries, and they refused to send out a bunch of library grants, and the courts told them they had to recently. And so, the courts can fix this kind of stuff. But now, this isn't just from the new administration. This has happened periodically in the past. I mean, regulators have their own mindset, but usually Congress comes back and goes, no, that's not what we told you to do, and that gets, so it's been rare, but it's not like it's never happened, but now it seems to be happening all the time. I mean, NTIA simply is refusing to distribute the Digital Equity Act funds.
Right.
And it's a very clear congressional order to do so. They're simply going, we're not going to do it. And so now that's in court. They're gonna refuse to do the non-deployment funds. They already started yesterday. with the an act tying it to AI. But that's not their only trick. They're not going to spend it. And
Right.
so these things will all end up in court. But it's really an extraordinary new phenomenon that regulators ignore Congress. They obviously think that they can because Congress is feckless, and they are. I mean, and the Congress could have come back on the prison one and said, no, put it in. No one ever raised an eyebrow, right? So,
well, is it because for Congress it's just not a priority, or is it truly because that they don't care?
I've been using the word feckless. I don't think they can get their act together. They haven't done anything this year. This is the least productive Congress ever. So they almost vote on nothing. Almost nothing actually makes it through to a vote. They have votes on some such and such a date for somebody. I mean, this is the kind of things they pass. They don't pass very many actual laws in the last year. So yeah.
Doug, I think something you said early is something something interesting to note. While it seems like while this is obviously an unprecedented level of agencies ignoring Congress, it has happened before.
Yeah.
So in your study, do you recall if Congress ignored, or if NTIA or another agency ignored Congress about BEAD or telecom during the last administration? Like, do we have a parallel, or is this new and specific to the current administration?
Well, there's often for things complicated like BEAD, it's not unusual for a regulatory agency to not do it exactly the way Congress said, but that's an interpretation issue. That's not the same
part of
thing.
it's because Congress is usually not very precise.
Yeah, and so I mean, if you go back and read the original BEAD laws, half of it is like, heck, we're in the industry, we don't know what they were talking about, right? So interpretation things are not ignoring Congress, because they're also regulators and they're allowed to do what they think works the best. But there's been cases in the past where they did this. It's been about 15 years. I remember the FCC completely ignored an order related to giving out a certain number of radio stations and markets. They just ignored it. So,
that was 1996, right?
Yeah, these things happen. And so, and then Congress came back and said, no, you will do it. And so they got into a big fight. And at the end, Congress wins because they have the purse strings. On that one, they actually threatened to cut their funding if they didn't do
it. So like in summary, what we're probably seeing then is these agencies just throwing everything against the wall in this total chaos machine that's happening, and then seeing what Congress has the ability to scoop out of the air, as it flies back towards them.
And meanwhile, for things like the prison rates, they actually implemented it, so the rates went back up. So if the courts come along or Congress comes along a year from now and takes it back to where it was, the rates will be lowered. But for a year and a half, people have paid too much money. So, so yeah, they're not just ignoring things; they're acting on them. That's the bad part. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next prediction, John.
Further erosion of BEAD.
How could this possibly be? It's so eroded as it is. Well, yes. I mean, we've already had three major rounds of erosion. So the first round was the last administration, which was the map challenge process, and they just got rid of millions of locations out of BEAD that really legitimately belong in BEAD. And so those folks are just being left out. They don't have good broadband. The FCC maps are wrong. But the map challenge process was so horrendously written that it was easy to take things out of BEAD. It was almost impossible to put them back in. So that was the first erosion. And then we had the benefit of the bargain round, which simply came back and said, you have to let technologies other than fiber in. And we always knew that was going to happen. And in fact, the NTIA did that last year also. But then the real change, which was not even really well announced, they came through and put a price cap on the amount that you could award. And the net effect of the benefit of the bargain and the price caps were that they cut the funding in half. So we went from, we were never going to give away the full 45 billion. It looked like it was going to be about 35 to 38 billion because some states just couldn't spend all the money.
Right.
But of course that was going to end up as non-deployment funds, which, everybody was happy with. And so they cut it in half. There's about 21 billion, and it might hit 22 billion that just didn't get spent on infrastructure. And so they've really, they whacked it and whacked it and whacked it. We started with 14 million eligible locations in BEAD. The final orders are a little bit over 4 million. So they got rid of 10 million locations. It's crazy. And now some of those really had to be removed because they had not done a good job of reconciling state grant awards and that sort of thing. I mean, obviously, if North Carolina gave a grant out to an area to build fiber, that should not be part of BEAD. So some of those 10 million were legitimate, but state grants in total only awarded about 2.5 million lines. So that's not what the difference is, right? So it was really map challenge issues. So, but we're not finished yet. So they have all sorts of opportunities now. They're going to come along and they're going to make states agree to certain things that they're not going to want to agree to. And so they gave states, 60 days, I think it was, to react to a list of things where the state has to guarantee things like, I love this one. The state has to guarantee that they have a process in place for permitting in polls. And the broadband offices have zero ability to do this. This is something that happens in the legislature or the governor's office.
Right.
And so they're going to go, and there's some states, about half of the states follow the FCC poll rules, so they're just covered. They go, look, we covered, the FCC, we do it. The other ones have their own rules, and some of them do a very poor job of that. I mean, a couple of the states haven't done any updates for 6, 7, 8 years to their poll rules, even though there's been a lot of pressure in industry. So those states could very easily lose their BEAD funding because they're not going to be able to certify that they're putting all those kind of changes in place. So now I expect NTIA is going to do this selectively. There's states they want to whittle down, and there's states they don't want to whittle down. This is very political, right? We'll see what happens, but I don't think we're done yet. I think there will be people that are going to get it whittled down. There's also going to be a whittling down when it comes time to sign all the grant agreements, because there always is. We're going to find they ended up, because of the benefit of the bargain, they ended up giving money to some groups who may not be able to get their financing or may not be able to get their letter of credits, and they'll just not be able to take the grant.
Yeah,
I think those just fall on the floor. I don't think they're going to give them to satellite. I think they're just going to die.
Oh, really?
Okay. That's my bet, is they're just going to die. Now, maybe not. They might give those to satellite, but
it would really depend on whether satellite had also applied for that location, right?
Well, I don't know what it means, but giving them to satellite is essentially not giving them anything. I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's 6 counties in rural West North Carolina where I live. All the locations went to Amazon Leo. So they didn't get BEAD. I mean, that's how everybody here interprets this.
Amazon Leo that doesn't really exist yet.
Well, it doesn't have one customer. It's not an ISP, and who knows if it'll ever be working. It particularly will be working in time. They've been ages behind in their launch schedule. They still only got 150 satellites in the air. It's like, really? So this is just insane. So I don't think we're finished with BEAD. I think a couple more billion will be whittled out of it before we're all said and done. So, yeah.
So Doug, I feel like I've been watching all of this, and somehow to me, Amazon Leo coming in seemed like a really late entry.
Yeah.
It's late.
Here's
it's
what
not legit yet. It's amazing technology.
Here's what I think happened. I think some of the states said, okay, you want the benefit of bargain rounds, and if it doesn't go to fiber, it goes to the lowest guy, that's them, and we don't give a damn if they're good or not. I think they threw their hands up in frustration. They go, this is what you asked for, this is what you get.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking they did, because they could have still given. I mean, Starlink is up and running, and a lot of people like Starlink, but I mean, to give it to a company that doesn't have a customer is just insane.
Do you think it was like maybe a political, like anybody but Starlink kind of move?
Oh, it could be. I doubt it, because this doesn't seem to be a red or blue state issue or anything. So I don't think it's that.
Okay.
I think they just said, your rules say if it doesn't go to fiber, it goes to the cheapest guy, and the cheapest guy was Amazon. I think it was that easy. So I could be wrong. I mean, broadband managers have stopped talking about this stuff. I expect about a third of them to quit in 26. I mean, I think they're all just fed up with the process.
They're ready to move on with their lives, and I've talked to a couple of them that are just like, they've been beat up. I mean, they feel beat up over the process.
Well, they are.
They've got regulatory whiplash at this point.
they had all done a very good job of being ready for the B grants. The B grants were underway. They were probably going to give 85% of the money to fiber, and we ended up at 60%. So, here we go. So,
And in Michigan,
there's still a lot of fiber going to be built. So we can't, those places that are going to get fiber are still going to get fiber. But because of the price caps, a lot of them got less money, and some of them are going to struggle because of that. So that's another problem is some of them may fail.
And because there is no rate regulation at all, that ISP is going to have to say, well, I got less money than I really needed, so I'm going to have to make my rates higher to give me the revenue flow I need to support this, and therefore consumers will end up paying the difference.
I know we have to cover all of our topics today, but I would love to come back and follow around to look at whether there's a looming affordability cliff on these plans after the networks are built. I don't know where the first data is gonna start being available, but I think to project what it's going to cost consumers over what it was supposed to cost consumers is going to be important data.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's certainly not going to be as cheap as we thought it would be. If you were going to charge $70 as a co-op, and you just got $4,000 a line taken out of your bead, you're probably going to charge more. So that's just the way it is, right?
Only logical.
All right, for topic number 3.
Yeah, major spectrum battles, and we're not talking about Spectrum, the really crappy cable company. Yes, I said that out loud, and I believe it. But what are we talking about here, Doug?
You're tempting fate because I'm talking to you on Spectrum, and if we go dark, it's your fault. So
is it?
They listen to you, they do. So,
Oh well, I take that back. They're not crappy at all. I was joking. You could see the smile on my face.
Yeah,
I love my T-Mobile. I love my T-Mobile 5G home internet service in rural Michigan.
What, are you trying to get free stuff? What the heck? Okay.
Yeah, she is. She's hoping they send her a free.
Well, I subscribe to service from a CBAN member, so I really do love my ISP.
And I have to show my video at 480p and still might have to blink off it. So let's just talk.
All right. Well, in case anybody was distracted and forgot what we were talking about here, major spectrum battles, Doug, what are we talking about? Are we talking about
in the wireless? We're talking about all spectrum. So in the big beautiful bill, Congress for the first time interjected themselves into spectrum management, which they've never done before. They've never made any major announcements of how the FCC and the NTIA should allocate spectrum. And so they came and said that the FCC has to find 800 megahertz of mid-range spectrum, which is the good stuff. It's between like 250 and about 600, 700 megabits. It's the stuff that everybody wants. It's the stuff that makes cellular work. It's the stuff that makes fixed wireless work. Everyone wants this. It's the stuff that makes the military uses it. We use it for all weather satellites. Just a whole long list of people use this stuff today. But they're going to have to take 800 megahertz from somewhere, put it up for auction. And part of this was touted as it would help balance the budget. They wanted to raise, I think, $85 or $88 billion out of the auction, which they may or may not do. But even if they do, in order to do this, they're going to have to go after. There's already talk going after CBRS spectrum, which is what one of the spectrums that the rural fixed wireless guys use. More importantly, they're almost absolutely going to have to dip into the 800 megahertz, which is a very large band, which is Wi-Fi 7 for our house. It's also it's the future of rural broadband. That's the big channels where you can actually get fast speeds. When we keep talking about delivering 500 and gigabit speeds, they're talking about this spectrum in rural areas. You can't do that on the little CBRS has these little tiny channels that aren't really all that good. And what's going to happen because of the spec, it's going to be put up for auction. This is all going to go to the cellular companies. So essentially, Congress just listened to the cell company lobbyists and gave them a giant pile of spectrum, and to the detriment of everybody else. Interestingly, from a national economic perspective, Wi-Fi is way more valuable than cellular spectrum. I mean, all of us are sitting here on Wi-Fi. Anyone watching this is on Wi-Fi. Nobody has wires to their computer anymore. Our cell phones are Wi-Fi, our computers are Wi-Fi, and all of our devices are Wi-Fi. And if they start chopping into Wi-Fi, I mean, this is just not a good long-term direction. And the FCC has no choice. They have to find the spectrum somewhere. So what we're going to see is massive, big battles. And so we're going to have lawsuits. This is going to, these auctions will not happen easily because the people who are going to lose these spectrums are going to fight like hell for them. And so, you know, and it won't be at all shocking to see Congress change their mind. I mean, who knows? This is going to get very, very ugly. This is not, we have no idea why they did this. I mean, obviously, you know, in my entire career, it's very obvious when lobbyists write little pieces of law. You know, AT&T and T-Mobile guys wrote the language into this gigantic, you know, 3-inch thick bill. They like snuck a page in there. You know, this is, yeah.
Let me ask you a question about that. So our first prediction was that federal regulators would ignore Congress. And in prediction now, just a few predictions later, we're saying, well, the agencies are going to have to cough up that spectrum. Does the agency want, like, does this administration's agency want to sell that spectrum?
Yeah, this FCC does because this FCC does because they want to take credit for raising all that money at the auction.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this particular FCC does want to do that. Now, this isn't all going to happen overnight. And if there's a different FCC in a couple of years, they might not want to do it at all, and they might just ignore it. I mean, I don't know, but this FCC is very much on board of going, look, we help to balance the budget, right? So I believe that they will absolutely support this. They would have never done this. Spectrum policy has actually worked fairly well. It's a very long deliberative process. All the parties get to comment. They fight like hell for years over this stuff. So everybody gets their say. The FCC has a really amazingly good qualified set of wireless engineers and their staff, who at the end of the day is usually who the commissioners end up listening to, because they all lie. I mean, all the people who lobby lie. They go, they're going to interfere with me and this stuff isn't going to really work. And then their engineers tell them the truth. So I would imagine we're going to see a lot of those engineers bill out of the FCC. They're like, well, what am I here for anymore? This, you know, this just upset my last 15 years of work. So yeah, this just doesn't, Congress has never done this before. It's bizarre. So, yeah.
Well, I would say that the thing you always got to remember when we're talking about public policy like this at the federal level, it's always this Congress, this FCC, this administration.
Yes.
And we all know that those things change. And when they change, often the direction changes. And, you know, that's why I always use this term regulatory whiplash. How does a company make long-term plans when they're constantly affected by short-term and sometimes short-sighted policies?
Well, and companies don't like this. Carriers and stuff do not like this kind of controversial stuff because they like regulatory certainty. They will take a bad policy that's going to be around for 20 years than take one that changes every other year. They've always bitched and moaned about regulations they don't like, but they've always made a lot of money living with them, right? So they're not in boardrooms talking about these regulations. These never come up in the big boardrooms of AT&T. This is not important stuff to them as a corporation, their bottom line. But you know, but they have a wish list, and they got their wish list snuck into here by lobbyists probably. But
so
no,
are you suggesting that this spectrum sale is less important to the carriers than like that it's sort of a gift that maybe it wasn't a mission critical ask that they like this?
I'm glad you asked that.
Thanks.
We didn't need this for 5G and 6G. We need this for FWA. We need this so they can do more home broadband. If you would have gone back 10 years ago, nobody would have said wireless carriers should be competing for home broadband with people who have wires to their house. Nobody would have said that because it's a really terrible use of the very valuable spectrum. It's like that. It's not really good for that. I mean, I think I did the math. I forget the number now, but it's, you know, I think there's one broadband customer uses 40 times more spectrum than a cellular customer. It's crazy. So we shouldn't be using our spectrum I hate to say it, John, but we shouldn't be using it for your house. Now you're in a rural area, so I don't think we mind, but they should definitely not be doing this in a city. They should not be competing with cable companies and fiber providers with this stuff. I mean, this is just insane. So that's what they're going to use all this.
They're
They're going to use all this to do it. There was an article that came out the other day that said they're going to have enough bandwidth to add 39 million more customers to that product. I don't think there's that many people who want it, because people get on it and after a while, it's okay, but it's not great. I mean, it's okay.
No, it's not very good. My other choice
Yeah.
is I do have Spectrum down my road because there's a large arts academy in our region, but the copper's like 30 plus years old. It's completely degraded. I was spending hours offline every day. So now I only just have a really terrible signal, but I have it about 78% of the time. So it's an improvement.
And this is the trade-off that we live with. But that product is why we had this rule. That this product is to support that, which makes zero sense.
No.
If they would have had a long deliberation at the FCC fairly about how to use Spectrum, this would not have gone to the top of the list. So,
that's why I asked that question. It just right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to remind everybody listening or watching, what you are witnessing or watching is Doug Dawson's 2026 predictions. We think this is like the 4th year in a row we've done it, and AI finally captured the true essence of the great sage soothsayer. So we're gonna move on to the next one, and this is actually directly related to what we just talked about.
Yes,
and that's fixed wireless will have another strong year.
Yep.
Well, they're adding 1 million new customers a quarter. I mean, they are just kicking butt. And the way they're doing it is $35 rates. I mean, it's so darn cheap, and T-Mobile will lock you in for 5 years on that. It's like, it's not great, but that's really cheap, and they're doing pretty good against cable companies. I mean, let's face it, $80 for Charter Spectrum or $35. A lot of people who are not, we all work at home, and we care a whole lot more than people who don't work at home. So
right.
So an awful lot of those folks are like, $50 a month, I'll take the crappier broadband. So they're really doing well. I mean, a million a month, we've never seen that at any other broadband product before. This is insane.
Well, does that perhaps then suggest that 39 million number of additional capacity? You said in the last question, I don't see there being an appetite for that for 39 million, but if we're adding 4 million a year, and even if we just didn't grow, I mean, I understand at some point there's like the net replacement, like, are there 39 million customers in the universe? But they're all somewhere now, right?
Well, my prediction is we'll get a growth curve that levels out at some point. And then at some point in the long run, 10, 15 years from now, people are dropping it like crazy because it's just not satisfying them. It's like, what you got to remember is every year we use a whole lot more broadband at our house. So every year we're a little more needy than we were the year before, which makes this a little less good product. Do that 10 years in a row, and it's like, I don't like this anymore. So, which is really what happened to the cable companies. Their upload speeds finally kicked them in the butt. People are tired of it. So,
right.
And you were complaining about your cable. It was your upload speed that really killed you. I mean,
it absolutely was because of my inability to be on video. And actually, it's one that lack of parity of up and download, I think was an unforced error early on with cable, on par with newspapers not charging for readership online at the beginning. Like, I could actually see this being an industry killer for them at the end, if there's no way to, because people are going to start expecting symmetrical speeds.
And what it's going to take, I believe at least, is the next killer app that's going to absolutely demand that capacity, and in particular on the upload. I mean, there's some of it now, right? Creators would not be satisfied with slow upload speeds, but there will be something come along, because there always is. Today it's AI drawing pictures, doctoring photos of people, but in the future, it'll be something else, and it's going to really push that technology to its limits.
Oh, absolutely. So now, cable companies did err because the technology they've already been deploying, they could do 50 megabit upload speeds, which is way better than the 15 you were probably getting at your house.
20,
right?
Supposedly 20.
But that was expensive for them to come back and rejigger their system to do that. It actually has that capability, and so they put as much on download possible because that's the number they advertise.
Right.
And they really, this is a mistake they made. They should have fixed it at COVID. They should have just put the money in and fixed it, and they never did.
Yeah.
In fact, if you recall, Altice came along and cut their download speeds because they didn't want to. I think they all colluded with the other companies not to look so. That kind of made everyone else look bad. If you remember, they went from 40 down to 20. Do you remember
Interesting.
that? Yeah.
Who did? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Altice.
Oh, okay.
Optimum. Yeah.
Yeah.
During COVID, they actually cut their upload speed.
Jeez. All right, we're going to move
which
along
is why
here.
That's why they don't have happy customers. They're not a very good cable company. So, yeah.
We got a few more of these to get through, Doug, and here's the next one. John, you want to?
Yeah, I'll say the words. The Universal Service Fund reform will stall.
You know, we got to say the words because some people are just listening. So
yeah, no. Last year I predicted that would finally get adopted, and it didn't. And now I just can't see this Congress getting their act together to do it. Congress is the only one who can do this. There's so much going on there. I can't see them agreeing to a bill in both houses, you know, in the House and Senate, and get this passed. It really needs to be reformed, but I think they'll let it stumble on another year. Because what they are not going to be able to agree on is everyone's going to have their wish list of how they're going to want to change the plan, and they're just never going to come to an agreement on that. So I think it's going to go for another year. That's a shame, but they're truly, it still gets all their money from telephone service, which keeps on losing customers.
Right.
Guys, pretty soon there will be no revenue for this. I mean,
so will you go ahead and throw in your bonus prediction of the ACP is never coming back?
Oh, ACP is never coming back. Well, never's a long time.
True that.
Again, another Congress might bring it back. That was a really successful plan.
It was so
incredibly.
successful.
Yeah, I mean, Charter alone signed up 7 million people on it. Households, not people, households. It's like, hey,
Households, yeah.
Over
23 million people took advantage of that program in the 9 months it was alive.
Yeah,
that's insane. That's so many. Yeah.
And so that's just a shame that we let that happen. So
So when we talk about Universal Service Fund reform, a lot of that's based on their revenue model, where the revenues are coming from. It seems to me that there's so many players out there, and everybody wants another player to pay that, and they don't want to have to contribute to it. That's one of the reasons it's
that's the
so
big battle. Do we charge it to broadband? Do we charge it to people like Google? I mean, every lobbyist in the world is going to be fighting on this one. That's the big battle that they're going to have to fight over.
Yeah.
Whichever one they picked, that one's going to fight really hard to not be the one, which is all crazy, particularly if they just put it on broadband. The ISPs don't pay it. It gets passed on to the customer.
Right, it gets passed to the consumer.
I don't know why, like, AT&T fights this so hard. Because if we spread it out the broadband, we're talking a 35-cent fee on everybody a month. Let's do it.
So if you had to predict, who do you think it would fall on if it were to go forward? Or is that is it too much?
In this Congress, it's going to get put on both broadband and the people like Google. They're going to spread it to everybody.
Big data.
Yeah, they're going to spread it to big data. But we'll see which lobbyists have the biggest kahunas. That's the question.
It's usually,
and I don't know. And I don't know that we know.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we know that. Yeah.
Right.
Because they're all getting everybody's getting their way. Who's getting their way the most? I don't know.
Let's talk about ISPs getting rich for like a couple predictions in a row now.
Yeah.
Incumbents. Yeah.
Well, they are going to get rich. Well, first off, they're getting rich in this environment, in this economy, which everyone agrees is a weakening economy. AT&T just raised their rates $5 across the board. So they started off that was about a month ago. So they're starting off the annual rate increase for. So first off, they're getting rich because of that. And so, you know, AT&T's big selling point when they first started competing with fiber is they were a lot cheaper than cable. They're not very much cheaper than cable now. So they've changed their philosophy a lot. Frontier still is, but once Verizon gets a hold of them, they won't be. So, we can write that one off too. So, but there's a whole lot of other things going on. They've cut the corporate tax rates, and the big thing they put in was something called bonus depreciation, which means if they build, and they're all spending a lot of money on infrastructure. So because AT&T is going to build another 15 million fiber passings. So as they invest in those fiber passings, they can literally write that off now. It used to be written off over 15 years or 20 years. So they're going to pay no income tax here for quite a number of years, and that's the extra windfall they're going to get, and that's going to carry through state and federal taxes. So they're going to get these gigantic cash windfalls because of the, again, cutting tax rates and this a massive benefit of the depreciation change. And it's not just telcos are one of the best beneficiaries because if you look across the board of all the industries in the country, they spend more on capital than most places do.
Right.
I mean, most businesses, they might build a new factory and they would get this, but the guys in industry spend a lot of money every year just on networks. And so they're the biggest beneficiary of that bonus depreciation. So, and I expect, of course, what I said, if they do that, they're not going to cut rates. They're going to give it all back to the stockholders by buying back the shares of the stock. So.
You know what this reminds me of, and has the same verbal cadence of, and almost the identical number of syllables to? Alternative facts, bonus depreciation. These are this benefit of the bargain. There are so many insidious doublespeak terms that we are supposed to be developing our understanding of the terrain around. It's absolutely impossible now. And I didn't mean to get triggered by bonus depreciation, but come on.
Yeah, and nobody noticed that in the big bill except accounting nerds like me. So I'm like, oh my God, did you see what they did? Yeah. Are
you by saying double speak, are you indicating that perhaps we're living in a world created by a certain author who wrote a book called 1984?
Well, we could be, or this could all be a giant simulation. I mean, that's a different podcast. So
the Matrix, it's real. Deal with it.
Wow.
The Matrix is responsible for this.
Come on. For the last 30 years, 80% of the bills in Congress are named by a really stupid, misleading name. Politicians have been doing this for a long time.
Oh, they've got to find the right name that can create an acronym.
Yeah.
But so we've got, so did we just kind of cover two of our points there? Because we all said big ISPs are all going to raise rates. Now I'm just going to say for mine, my rate is guaranteed to be frozen for 5 years, but I've actually promised not come true before. So we'll see.
Yeah. Actually, T-Mobile has been very bad in the past of living up to that. They've actually been one of the companies that have broken those promises. They've given people guaranteed rates for 2 years and raised their rate 6 months into it.
Yes.
Well, there's a certain out there that's in the Midwest is price for life. Sign up at $65 a month for a gigabit, price for life. And I've always like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah, but you can't make any changes. If you come to your accountant and go, I want to add auto billing, you go, you made a change. So you cannot touch that plan. You have to exactly live it. And so, and they're not going to tell you that when you call in to add the auto billing. You're just going to get a higher bill the next time.
It's awesome.
So
price for life, it's product for life. It's no changes. Yeah.
Here we are at the grand finale.
Grand finale. I do fully
declare that the rural broadband gap has been solved for those of you just listening. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't even know why we're bothering here to talk about rural broadband anymore because there's no problem left. Everybody can buy Starlink or Amazon Leo apparently, and so it's solved. And of course, there's real repercussions of that. I really fully believe that NTIA will be the one to say it because they've already started to say it. They've already started to say things like BEAD was intended to be the final grant program that finally solves the problem. So I mean that's a literal direct quote, and so I believe sometime early in the year, as they start actually finally approving all the BEAD awards, they're going to come out and say that. Now the repercussions of that is there won't be any more broadband grants. Like right now, there is funding for another reconnect, but if everybody has broadband, that'll die. They can't give you money if you already have broadband, right?
Did you have air quotes around everybody, or was that just like a hands not showing everybody has broadband?
No, they're going to say that the rural broadband gap has been closed. Now there's an asterisk there because like there's the state of New Mexico said they have something like, I don't know, 140 people who live in canyons who can't get satellite broadband. So maybe those people could still be eligible for a grant. I don't.
Well, we can talk about maps and how rural communities in our membership, and even a couple community, like one community in particular that we're working with, when they like presumed on their HexBin final awards, they found out that of the 1,013 passes they thought they had covered, they have between 50 and 100 addresses that just didn't get served, and they can't tell exactly where they are. So now this community is wondering if it should spend money to find those people.
Yeah,
because it has no way to know. I mean, like the effery around it is so layered. It's so multi-layered that.
Well, and I live in Appalachia, and the federal maps are made from two sources. They use local GIS data, which a lot of rural companies either have none or they have very poor data.
Yep.
And then it's done with satellites. If you've ever looked at Appalachia from those Google Earth views, you can't even see the roads, let alone the houses.
Same where I lived.
Yeah, they're just not here. You would think that this is a giant national park. Like, no, there's 500 houses in there.
Yep.
So they miss all them. I was working with an ISP in Kentucky, and he says that FCC maps miss about 20% of the locations in his co-op area. So yeah, I mean,
and also show some locations that are not actually locations.
Yeah, that's not as bad of a problem, but it does do that.
Not as bad.
It's really hard with a satellite to know the difference between a barn and a house. It really is.
Yes.
They have roofs on them, right? So yeah.
Although some would argue that precision agriculture would really benefit from having Wi-Fi in that barn, but like there's a whole other layer of conversation we may never even get to have at the national level around that. It may never become a national priority, but it probably will never become a national priority.
I was looking at the world is familiar with the bridges of Madison County, and I was looking at the broadband serviceable location map for that county in Iowa, and they had one of the covered bridges as a broadband serviceable location.
Of course, because it has a nice roof on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Doug, I know we can't stay here all day, and you're expecting.
Oh, sure we can. I'm canceling
an important delivery, but we were also just crying in the good way over your turkey awards. And if you would feel like coming back in the near future and talking to us about those too, I think we could.
Let's do that. I've never done the turkey awards before, but this year we actually have a long list of turkeys. We never had a long list before.
Some of them I was reading, I was just like, I knew these things as they happened, but when you take them all in context and seen together, it's like, I think reality is breaking. Like it feels like reality is breaking. I would love to talk to you about those if we can.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Well, and there will be probably, the turkeys appear on a very regular basis, so there might even be new turkeys that evolve between now and then.
Oh, I imagine there will be. We're not done with turkeys.
Well, let's try and set this up for January then. We'll just preview that we'd like to do that.
So, Doug, would you like to predict when we'll get together again? No, I'm just kidding. I just had to show this one more time.
You're in love with this AI.
I do. I'm actually going to probably put a poster-sized version of it right on the other side of my monitor.
He's been iterating and showing it to me since early yesterday. So
I feel like I've got a cartoon version, but it didn't turn out very well.
Well, John, we sympathize with you. You have to work with them every day. I only have to do this once a year.
There are blessings in there, though. Like you can't ask for a nicer man. There is no such person. So.
Well, I want to share in the URL here for your blog, Doug. I want to give full credit for all the great writing you do there. Pots and Pans by CCG.com. CCG Consulting is your consulting business, of course, and you've done a lot of great work for a lot of providers and communities over the years. So we appreciate all that you've done for the community that we serve too, our publicly owned and community-focused broadband system. So thanks for everything.
Indeed. Yeah, about half of all my clients ever are actually local governments. So they're my favorite folks. So at least half of them, of my clients are that. So. Yeah.
Well, they're all we work with. So
Yeah,
for the most part,
I love working with local governments and communities all day and all night.
Yes, I'm with you. So, okay.
Well, our guest today with his annual predictions episode has been Doug Dawson with CCG Consulting. On behalf of John Willow and Doug, we want to thank you all for joining us on this edition of Broadband Action.